latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for August 20th. A tropical depression is indeed forming in the Atlantic in the form of Invest 98L. Elsewhere, we have Hurricane Genevieve approaching the Baja California Peninsula, and Tropical Depression Higos is dying over China. It's day 233 of the year so far, and 52 storms have formed so far in 2020. Taking a look more in depth in the Atlantic, Invest 97L, we are giving a 80% chance of development right now, in agreement with the National Hurricane Center, which have just given it 70% in 48 hours. The National Hurricane Center, on the other hand, are giving 98L 90% chance of formation in 48 hours and 5 days. We think it's slightly higher at 100%, and this system could be a tropical depression already. Elsewhere, we have a 40% chance of a tropical cyclone forming just off the African coast of the Cape Verde Islands, and that system could form early next week. In the East Pacific, we have Hurricane Genevieve passing by the Baja California Peninsula as a 85-mile-per-hour storm, and we have a 20% chance of a tropical cyclone forming just the south of where Genevieve is currently located, mainly early next week. In the Western Pacific, Higos is dying over China after making landfall just southwest of Hong Kong as a 75-mile-per-hour typhoon. Some indications were that it was much stronger than that, close to Category 2 intensity. Invest 90W is currently located near the Philippines and has a 60% chance of development as it pushes northward towards Japan, and that could be a significant typhoon as it approaches. In the North Indian Ocean, to absolutely everyone's surprise, nothing is active here, as the monsoonal pattern is underway there and nothing is on the radar for the next few weeks. So here's Hurricane Genevieve. We've given it 85 miles per hour, 974 millibars based on earlier reconnaissance aircraft readings. Hurricane warnings are in effect for portions of the southern Baja California Peninsula, as the storm is extremely close to there right now. Our forecast brings it slowly off toward the northwest in the next 24 hours, weakening down to a tropical storm intensity in around 36 hours. Then in around 72 hours from now, it will downgrade to a remnant low, losing almost all of its convection, if not entirely, where it will slowly move off towards the northwest, eventually turning towards the north, where it will likely dissipate in around 5 to 6 days from now. In the Atlantic, we have Invest 98L right now, located towards the east of the Windward Islands. This could be a tropical depression already, and the National Hurricane Center could initiate advisories 3 hours after this tropical weather bulletin goes live. If it does get numbered, it would be 13, and the next name on the naming list is Laura. We are forecasting this system to quickly become a tropical depression, if not already. In around 24 hours from now, it will probably become a tropical storm. It will likely move towards the Leeward Islands, and around 22 hours from now, it could become a hurricane as it pushes by Puerto Rico and Hispaniola. In 96 hours, it could be approaching Cuba again as a hurricane and could be rapidly intensifying by that point. And around 120 hours from now, it'll be coming extremely close to Florida, where it could be a major hurricane by then. However, models do differentiate extremely based on this scenario. It could be a weak tropical storm or even a major hurricane by the time it gets there, and it could potentially go into the Gulf of Mexico or up the East Coast. We'll have to wait and see what happens on that. Here's Hurricane Genevieve right now, slowly weakening as it approaches the Baja California Peninsula. It's only moving at around 5 to 10 miles per hour very slowly, and it will probably begin to rapidly weaken soon. Not quite as rapidly as its rapid intensification up to Category 4 intensity, but I'd imagine that it would dissipate in around 3 to 4 days' time. So here's a look at the North Atlantic right now. You can see Invest 98L. It's got quite a clear low-level center. That could be a tropical depression already, probably is. And then there's Invest 97L in the Caribbean, flaring up a few thunderstorms associated with it, and that will probably become our next named storm, the M name, as it approaches the Yucatan Peninsula and eventually the U.S. Gulf Coast. You can also see the tropical wave right now currently exiting Africa. We've given that a 40% chance of development, and that could form later on early next week. Here's what the Gulf of Mexico looks right now. A lot of thunderstorms activity over Florida right now, and over Cuba, and as well as over the northern portion of the Yucatan Peninsula. There's quite a large frontal zone moving through the central Gulf of Mexico, And this was the big question that we were asking, because this had potential to bring 97L up towards Florida, but that does not look like that will happen anymore. And 97L could ultimately continue going toward the north, like in Louisiana, Mississippi, or Alabama, or it could even turn towards the northwest and potentially strike Mexico or Texas. There is large uncertainty with where the system goes, but we know that it will probably be a tropical cyclone at that time when it does make landfall. Here's the Eastern Pacific Genevieve, front, center, and right in the center of the state, I should say. It continues to push off towards the northwest. It will likely dissipate in 3 days, as I've been saying. Somewhere near Hawaii is Invest 90C, which the Central Pacific Hurricane Center a few days ago gave a 70% chance of formation. That was extremely high, as ultimately it did not form, and it is ultimately dissipating as it approaches the international dateline. Here's a look at the mess of the Western Pacific that we've got right now. You can clearly see Invest 90W clearly unorganized over the Philippines right now, probably due to land interaction, but this will probably move off towards the north-northeast and probably develop into a tropical cyclone at some point. How strong will it get? That's the question that we have to answer, and that's the question that will be answered next week as the system pushes towards the north. You can also see Higos dissipating over Japan. Here's how the sea surface temperatures are looking right now. You can see the Gulf of Mexico pipering hot, which we need to be on the lookout because 97L could be a significant hurricane as it makes landfall in the U.S. Gulf Coast, so that certainly does bear watching. Sea surface temperatures in front of 98L are fair. We'll have to see how that system performs. Western Pacific looking good, and the Indian Ocean, particularly the Bay of Bengal, looking favorable. The Arabian Sea, not so much. On this day in 2015, it was extremely active. We had a Category 5 at Sani in the Western Pacific, peaking with winds of 160 miles per hour. After explosively intensifying to a super typhoon, Goni was weakening to a Category 1 and stalling toward the northeast of Luzon. Danny was rapidly intensifying in the Atlantic and would peak at a high-end Category 3, almost Cat 4, and 4C was active in the Central Pacific. That would eventually become Kilo, and Ignacio and Yamena would eventually join Kilo, I should say, as a triplet of Category 4s later on down the line, and 3C would eventually become Oho as it pushed off towards the northeast quite rapidly. So, these are the names on the naming list right now. In the Atlantic, the next name will be Laura, could be imminently right now, followed by Marco, and if we do see any names stormed after those two, it will be Nana and Omar. In the East Pacific, the next name is Hernan, followed by Izel, and in the Central Pacific, it is Hone, followed by Iona. In the Western Pacific, we are looking out for Bavi, could be on the way, followed by Mesak and Hai Shen. In the North Indian Ocean, we are looking out for Gati and Nivar, which those will be on the radar for the next few weeks. In the Australian region, if we do get an off-season storm, probably not, it will be named Imogen, followed by Joshua on the naming list there. In the South Indian Ocean, on the new naming list there, it will be Alicia, followed by Bongoyo. And in Fiji, it will be Yolanda, followed by Zazu. This is the Tropical Weather Bulletin for August 20th. We'll have another Tropical Weather Bulletin tomorrow night. Stay tuned to our 24/7 stream for the latest information. You can follow Force 13's outlets. You can check out our new Cyclone Tracker on our website, force-13.com/cyclone tracker. You can also follow us on youtube.com/Force13. Subscribe if you haven't. You can follow us on Facebook for more updates on there, as well as Twitter. We also do publish updates on there as well. You can become an ultimate fan of our YouTube channel. To see the full list of YouTube benefits, visit youtube.com/Force13/join. With a special thanks to our ultimate fans and our patrons this month as they continue to bring funds towards our way. You can also check out our growing merch store at store.force13.com as well. It continues to grow to this day. You can also check out our Discord server using the link in the description below.